Hey, Circle Nuts again. This is a frustration video. Hooray! Game designer says, oh, those. Insert expletive. You guys just don't fight. And this is a game full of combat. And I am really looking at the adventures and going, where is the fighting? And if you don't mind me saying, I think some of you are a little aversive toward that, and then your mutual aversiveness kind of cooperates with one another, and everyone just well, we didn't fight. Well, preferences aside, and speaking not as your instructor, but as your observer, and a completely biased one who says his combat rules fucking rock and you not using them is it's kind of like reading Girl Genius by Phil Folio, right? I'm spoiled by all those years of Xenophile, so I'm reading Girl Genius and I'm done with the issue. I'm like, wait a minute, aren't we missing something? Cool, I got to be crude. I'm happier when I get to do that, geeky, referential way. All right, let's talk about the killing. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the big stumbling blocks here is that you're often dealing with unnamed characters. And I have seen this before. People pick up Circle of Hands and they're kind of saying, oh man, there's like a combat system here and he wants us to use a little circle thing. We don't need a little circle thing. We don't have to do that really, right? And you're busy working on that and processing that. And then all of a sudden the GM says, and all these guys show up with crossbows. And then you're like, wait, what do we do? What do we do? Flip. What do we do? What can I do? How do we do it? And all of a sudden you're like, wait, are these named characters? They don't have names. Wait. And people just miss the basics. Against unnamed characters, they don't roll. You don't set up a sequence. You don't use the little circle. There's no initiative. There's no then I go and then you do and then I go. No, forget all that. Unnamed characters, you make quickness versus 12 rolls. And that's all. Pretty easy. If you are able to attack them, let's say you're up close and personal or you have a distance weapon or something like that, then you succeed in your roll and you get to pick one off. And it's up to you. There's a little thing, little rubric there for, how much you make it by and then what you can say happens to them. And usually it's pretty heinous. It really comes down to you can sort of decide whether they're just down or whether they're completely killed. And pretty easy. So that's that. Hey, I make my quickness versus 12 roll. If I just keep doing that, then we knock them all off and fantastic. And then you have, if you fail the roll. And if you fail the roll, then you're going to take the difference as damage. +3 per unnamed person, which goes up to about +9 total, because after that you're fighting a group and we just shift all the way over to the group rules and you do those, which are completely different. Fine. But right here, we're dealing with a handful of unnamed individuals and they're attacking you. Just make quickness versus 12 rolls. No, not for each one, just for you. With the consequences being that if you miss it, then you're extra fucked. And also considering the whole thing in the section about whether you're rolling 1 die or 2 dice. Typically, the thing to do in those situations is just try and get 2 dice as quickly as possible through hook or crook, and then make as many rolls as possible. Okay, wait, what about ranged attacks? Isn't that so different? Yeah, it's different because if you're not firing back with some shooting back, remember? That's in the rules. We don't say firing. Anyway, if you're not shooting back, then yeah, your quickness versus 12 rolls are merely about not being killed, and I strongly suggest that you go and do something to get out of there or close the distance or start shooting back so that your successful rolls will actually do something. And that's all. I mean, super all. to that whole story. Now, as far as dealing with one or more named characters, which, as you know, could include a beast, and it also includes all monsters, and it also includes all of the critters of Emborion and Urbaja. What happens if you have unnamed characters mixed in there? Okay, here comes, Eric, the mean guy. And look, there's, 6 dudes backing him up, and there's 3 of you, so it doesn't count as a group. So what are we going to do now? Well, that's easy enough. At 3 o'clock on your go, that's when you make that quickness versus 12 roll before you do anything. And no, you can't preempt it by spending brawn. They're there, and they're in your face. And they come in right on you, right when you were trying to do something. That's how it works. And it's pretty straightforward. Just add them into the sequence. There's not even a pawn for them, okay? They just go with you when you get to that spot with air on you. And that's how you do them.